Make a budget for your family life to know how much do you use a month. Keep to the budget, because if you don't keep to a budget, you're going to just go downhill, and eventually you're not going to have enough money to do it.
Shalom from Yerushalayim. My name is Shlomo Ben Zaken, Remax Momentum. I have a very special guest with us today in our Ulpan, in our studio, Tuvia Victor. He's been my Roe Cheshbon, my accountant for several years, and I think there's a lot of information that we can help with agents, specifically real estate agents in this business, about how to manage your finances. So without any further ado, Tuvia, introduce yourself. Tell us a little about your background. And you're an English speaker. You're from Australia, right?
Shalom. I'm originally from South Africa.
South Africa, I'm sorry. I get that mixed up all the time.
I was born in Johannesburg. I've been here for 40 years. I've been running my practice for almost 40 years. Started out as a small practice and it's grown over the number of years. A number of real estate agents have been clients. And I think that we've managed to give the clientele, the real estate agents and other clients, a service that can help them not only with their accounting and their tax needs, but general business advice as well.
Okay, so let's face it, you know this very well. The life of a real estate person, real estate agent, is somewhat different than your typical even Atzmai, even people that are on their own, freelancers, let's say, consultants. We have a lot of ups and downs, and not much that we can really depend on. So it's a big challenge to manage our finances properly, and I'd love to hear a little of what you have to say about that.
I think sometimes when we're dealing with real estate agents, it sometimes reminds me of the dream that Pharaoh had and Yosef interpreted for him, where you have 7 good years and then 7 lean years. And you have to make sure that when you're having the good years, you're putting away, you're saving, you're putting aside enough that'll help you through the lean years that are going to follow. With the real estate agents, you get tremendous amounts of money when you make a nice deal, but then you can go months and months with nothing, and it can be a very dry season. The water hole dries up and you're left collecting debts and not knowing what to do. I think that the main objective of every real estate person is to consider what's going to be your needs, what is going to be your annual income, and to spread it out over the year. Now, none of us are prophets. We don't know what our income is going to be. And real estate agents have a tendency to be over-optimistic and to think they're going to make tremendous amount of deals. If I only make one deal every day then, or if I only make one deal every week, you have to look at it on a very realistic, perhaps even pessimistic view. What is a real probable amount that you'll earn? Divide that by 12, and that is how much you can use per month. Your income has to match your expenses. There's no real tricks that we can give you where if your income is more than if your expenses are more than your income, there's no trick that you're going to be able to balance your books and not go into debt. So you have to get a realistic amount of what are your expenses, what is your average income for the year, and see that it matches out. If it doesn't match, then you've got to cut down on your expenses. There's no ways that you can keep living on the level that you are if you're not making enough money.
Okay, Tovia, I understand the theory. We should follow the ways of Yosef and take from the good years and save for the not so good years, and that's great. But how do we do this in Tachlis? I mean, how do we set up accounts? How do we deal with, there's a lot of things that we have to pay for. We have our daily expenses, we have taxes, we have all sorts of stuff. Can you talk a little more about that? How would you do it physically, tachlis?
Firstly, I think that it's important that your account, the bank account that you run your business through, is not the same bank account that you pay your children's school fees and your wife goes to the supermarket with. It's very important that you have a separate bank account, one where you can feel the pulse of the movement of your cash, where you can see how much money is left at the month end. I think that's important for two reasons. One is, when all accounting gimmickry is finished, the end result is how much cash is left in the bank. When you've got a separate bank account, comes the month end, you can know how much money is in the account that you can transfer to your personal account for your personal use, for your family use, and that is an indicator of how much you have made for the month. When you transfer money at the month end to your personal account, don't forget to leave some monies in your business bank account, because there are always going to be some taxes and bituach leumi, national insurance, that you're going to have to pay afterwards. Being in a business that has such fluctuations in the income, in the level of income, one can't exactly forecast how much taxes you're going to be. So very often, if your income has increased this year compared to previous years, you're going to be hit with a year end with a tax payment or with the bituach leumi payment. One should take care to keep money aside for that. Speak to your accountant during the year, towards the year end, to try and get some amount of how much it'll be, and make sure that you keep some monies aside in order to cover those expenses. There are some ways that you can save money for yourself, as well as saving on taxes, which the government has allowed us to do. And I think it's very wise to do what their possibilities are, in order to save as much taxes as you can. As you know, we want to pay our taxes. We want to pay every single cent that we have to, but we don't want to pay 1 shekel more than we need to. There are two mediums that we can do. One is a pension. A pension, first of all, by law, you have to have for yourself. But more importantly, it's a vehicle that enables us, when we retire, when we're old, to live comfortably without the worry of how we're going to put food on our table. We want to relax, we want to enjoy our life, we want to visit our grandchildren, we want to buy them gifts, and we want to save for that. The government has allowed us to put money into the pension funds, which is basically considered an expense for the business. I'm not going to go in technically in how it works, but basically it's an expense for the business, and it saves you on mas הכנסה, on income tax and bituach leumi. So that's the one step. For the long term, it's very important, and the younger you are when you start, the more beneficial the pension scheme will be. The other one, a keren hishtamut, is for a medium term. It's a savings that you put away. It's basically, like I said, considered an expense, and after 6 years you can withdraw the funds from the policy. The keren hishtamut is invested. The benefits that accrue, the interest or the profits that accrue, are tax-free, and after the 6 years, when you withdraw the money, that's tax-free again. It's a win-win situation, and I think that in order to make sure that we have some money saved for the medium term, it's a vehicle that really, really should be taken advantage of.
Okay, I get all of that, and that's a lot. I tell you the truth, okay? Us agents, we're not very good at this kind of stuff, okay? I think you know that. We're artists. We need to make deals, and give me a rule of thumb, okay? Let's say let's say someone comes home with, 30,000 shekel a month, okay? That's what he makes on average. and there are agents that make a lot more than that, but let's say $30,000 a month. How much of that should he put aside for taxes and for unexpecteds and stuff like that? What's the rule of thumb?
I would say, like I said before, the tax authorities are your partner, and I think you should consider them as a full partner and go 50-50. I may be exaggerating and you'll have a little bit more left over, but as you earn more, it goes closer and closer to 50-50.
What are those levels, by the way?
You know, the tax rates start at 10%, and goes up to 14, goes up to 21, and finally up to 47%. I think it'll be a little bit...
You're including Bituach Leumi?
No,
not even.
Just including
just
Masa
Masa.
Bituach Leumi is a different, you can on average about 10 or 12%, and you add that all together, you've come to a real hefty amount, and that's after obviously we've taken off the VAT, which is 17%.
So VAT you don't make. I mean, you're just taking it and transfer. But money that you're saying that about 60%.
60%, but because of the lower tax rates at the beginning, usually comes to about 50%.
Yeah.
You've got to be aware of it. That's the money that
if you're making over 500,000 a year, let's say shekels, somewhere, and you're up to like 55-60%. Yeah.
Right.
Wow, it's a hefty amount. Is right.
It's still worth working because you're still making the other 45 or 50, but a lot of the money goes up to the tax authority. I suppose we can just be thankful that it's going to Israel, it's going to our country, and it's not going to somebody else that has no connection to us.
All right, so let's talk about credit cards, loans, and also I'd love you to also just touch upon gifts. You know, people think, oh, it's just a gift, but it adds up, right? How do we deal with all that kind of stuff?
Credit, especially credit cards, are a very dangerous tool. It's so easy to take out your credit card from your company, from your wallet, to pass it in the store and go home without even looking how much you've paid. One of the worst things is when you go to the supermarket and you've bought your groceries for the week or the day or whatever, and you go to the till and they say, would you like payments? Would you like it in a number of tashlumim? I always laugh and I say, well, next month I'm going to have to eat as well. It's not really worth doing that. I think it's important to realize that when when you're offered installments for your payments, all you're doing is taking your problems and adding them into next month's problems. It's going to hit you at some stage or another. It's not worth doing them. If you buy a new refrigerator or you buy a new something or another that you need and that's going to last you, it's a one-time expense, something you do once every number of years, then with pleasure do it over a number of months and pay it off. But if it's a current expense, whether it's food, whether it's electricity, whether it's your municipal taxes, anything that's current, you pay it this month. There's no reason to spread it out, because eventually it's just going to add up and roll over and over until it hits you hard and you find that you've sunk under the credit card and you can't breathe.
Not to mention all the interest that you're paying. And then people don't know how much rent. What is the average interest on credit cards?
You can pay something like between 5 and 10%.
Even more, 13%.
13%. Yeah. Some of them go up to. Yeah. It's a lot of money. It's not worth it. If you can't afford it now, don't buy it. That's the simplest and the honest thing you have to do.
What about having what's called the misgarret, an extra buffer in your bank of let's say 10,000 shekel that you could go into minus? What about that?
That's an excellent idea, because you need to have an opportunity that if you need it for something or another, some specific, unusual, unexpected situation, that you can go over for a few thousand shekel, where you and yourself know that how you're going to return it and get out of that very soon. That's different from paying current expenses, which are just going to snowball until it hits you hard. To have a misgarret, an opportunity that you do have that little bit extra to go, is a safety net which is useful and good, but just be careful not to rely on it too much.
I think the common thing is, I think it's most people. Okay, you tell me, because you deal with a lot of clients from all walks of life, right? And I'm sure you don't share anything with each client's information with anyone else. But let's be real. Most of us live on the edge, right? Am I wrong?
I think that's very, very... No. I can't say everybody lives on the edge.
I didn't say everyone. I say most. A good majority lives on the edge because they're not taking into account. Let's say a refrigerator just breaks. Right there, it's like 10,000 shekel.
I'm not going to argue about majority or minority, but there are a number of people that live on the edge, and sometimes they get too close to the edge and they fall.
When you're living on the edge and you're depending on a deal to happen, let's say by us, and it doesn't happen, blows up. You're in trouble, right?
I think you're in trouble financially. You're probably in trouble emotionally. It probably affects on your home life. It's a very, very big problem when you're living on the edge and you have to make the deal. Otherwise, you're not going to make it. You're not going to be able to pay your bills. You're not going to you send your wife. Your wife won't be able to go buy things in the supermarket, or she'll go and she'll pass her card and it won't pass through. It's embarrassing. My mother used to say that when money doesn't come in through the door, the love flies out through the window. So I think it's important to make sure that you are up to date and you don't overexpend yourself. Make a budget. Make a budget for your family life to know how much do you use a month. Keep to the budget, because if you don't keep to a budget, you're going to just go downhill. And eventually you're not going to have enough money to do it. By the way, if you're making a budget of how much you spend on all the important things, like food and education and health and things like that, I suggest that you add into your budget a certain amount for yourself and for your spouse, where you have pocket money. Nobody should feel bad if they walking down the street on a hot summer day and they want to buy themselves an ice cream, or it's cold and you want to buy a cup of coffee, to think, does that fit into the budget or not? We have to live.
That's part of your budget already.
We have to live. You should have a certain amount of pocket money for each of you, whether it's 100 shekel or 1,000 shekel, depends on your budget, that each of you can spend money without having to report to your spouse and to make excuses. Why did I buy that piece of chocolate, or why did I buy myself a new, I don't know, whatever. You have to have a little bit of freedom, but consider that as part of your budget.
Yeah, I think also, look, you can. There are two philosophies. There are organizations that help people, and they say, okay, did some tzimu, let's bring it in. You're spending an extra 200 shekel on this, bring it down, and that's from an accountant point of view. I'm sure that's pretty logical. On the other hand, when you get down to tzimtzum, like to the end, you're not living either. You have to have a little of a life. So, there's that on one side, and the other side is like, make more deals, make more money. And I'm of the opinion, make more money, because you can only close in as much as so much. But if you want to get out of that, okay, then make more deals, okay? And like you say, at the same time, you know what? As you're making more money, don't adjust your life, your quality of life or your level higher. Keep it where it was, okay?
And keep that extra for rainy day.
Yeah, and I think that's the philosophy that it seems to be. That's what I'm getting from everyone. I'm believing that that's more and more the case, because we tend to do that. Second we make a deal, okay, let's buy a brand new car. Let's up the thing, and then you have more expenses, or let's take on a higher, refinance a mortgage or whatever it is, and it's dangerous.
Shlomo, when you have one good deal, it doesn't necessarily mean another one's coming off.
That's right.
It's not a train that one carriage follows the next along the same tracks. You can be lucky and have one. You can be lucky and have two, one after the other. But you can always be aware that there's going to be a dry spell whether it's your fault.
In any market, I mean, you
In
can
any
have
market.
several listings, and all of a sudden the bottom drops out, and it happens. Yes.
It could be because of you. You get sick. You
Yeah.
go on leave. You're on vacation. It could be because of the market. It could be because you expend all your energies on a certain client. You think you're going to make a tremendous big deal, and then it falls through.
I had an agent here, and I'm not gonna say who, and I'm sure they're gonna watch it. And say they had one buyer from America who was gonna buy five apartments,
Wow.
apartments, and they were ready to sign, and all of a sudden something happened where, for some reason, he couldn't bring the money here. Okay, everything fell apart. You know how much investment that was? It was like putting all your eggs in that one basket, and that's a dangerous thing to do.
That's dangerous. You have
Yeah.
to spread your risk.
A lot of buyers, a lot of sellers get a lot of listings, and that's our side of it. But on the
But I think, Shlomo, there's two things to look at. The one is you can decrease your expenses, or you can increase your income. Those are your two options. There's no
and a
third
combination
way.
of both.
The more you increase
Yeah.
your income, the better. Then you can increase your expenses.
Right. Absolutely.
But make sure that before you increase your expenses, that your income actually goes up. Don't base
But not just for a month, but like
your income on projections and plans
Or
and
hopefuls.
and hopefuls and wishes and prayers. When the money's in the bank, then you can spend it. Make sure that you plan according to a pessimistic view of income, and if there's any money left over, wow, then you can celebrate, but celebrate in proportion. If we're talking about celebrating, I think it's also a situation where very often people come to celebrations and wow, do they want to celebrate? Whether it's a wedding, whether it's a bar or bat mitzvah or a bris, sometimes I see
it's crazy.
crazy. I see events and affairs that are crazy. And I suddenly think, wow, you're spending tens of thousands of shekel on an event that's going to be finished in 2 hours or 3 hours.
Couldn't agree more.
It's really, really worthwhile to make sure
You
that
could take
these-
it's like you could buy a house. You could put a down payment sometimes on what the
you
amount
can
of money they
down
spend
payment
on
a
weddings.
house. You
Buy the couple a house. You know.
Exactly. I think that we all need to learn, and perhaps Corona has helped us. Corona has helped us to realize that a couple can get married and live happily afterwards with a smaller wedding.
And honestly, no one cares.
Nobody can. And I
No one
think-
cares how much money you spend.
I
You know, the
don't-
best weddings. I just went to a wedding. It was in Ramat Eshkol, and my wife actually helped with the, with the shidduch, or with the on the side of the college. She's remarried. Anyway, it was in a house. Someone, a really great person, a great couple, made a wedding for someone that they hardly knew. It was one of my best weddings. I got to tell you, it was so close, intimate, and it was nice, not ostentatious. It was in good taste. And I really enjoyed myself. The food was great. The people were great. The music was fun. And it was so much better than these crazy weddings I've been to in Israel. I can't believe the things that people do now. It's just nuts. Everyone's trying to outdo the other one. Oh, you did fireworks? I'm going to do fireworks. I'm going to have someone drop out of a plane. It's crazy.
I don't know about you, but when I know somebody's getting married and there's a wedding and I'm not invited, I sometimes think, that's an evening that I don't have to go to the wedding. I think that
Wow.
people, you don't have to worry that people are going to be offended, that people are going to be angry with you that you didn't invite me. Everybody understands, everybody's aware of the fact that it costs money, and they're not too worried that they're not going to be there at your simcha. The simcha should be good, should be mechubad, should be nice, but keep it in track, because you're not Rothschild. You don't have that amount of money to throw away for one evening's entertainment.
And I might add, on the other side of it, and maybe this is not popular what I'm saying, that if you're someone on a budget and you're really counting every shekel, okay, and you want to give a present, and someone made a big wedding, whatever it is, I don't think you should feel obligated to give them like a lot of money, which is hurting you personally in your regular thing because they spend so much money. I think you should still say, this is what I can afford, and this is what I'm going to give.
First of all, the presents that you're going to give over the year should be part of your budget that we spoke of before.
Sure.
And definitely, I don't think if they chose a fancy hall, you have to pay for the fancy hall. I think you give what you can give, what you think is respectable, what you do. Again, if it's a close friend or a close family, you may give more than if it's somebody distant. I think you might make what you can do. It doesn't mean that their decisions have to put you into debt.
Yes.
If we're talking about giving, we should talk as well about donations.
Absolutely.
Um,
How much should you put into donations, and how does that affect taxes? Yes.
Donations are always something that we like giving. We like to help the causes that we believe in, whichever they can be, whether it's helping people, whether it's institutions of one kind or another. Thank God, it's always better to be on the side that you can give and not have to rely on receiving. Again, the government has given us encouragement to give donations, and on each donation that you give to a recognized institution by Section 46, they give you 35% off your taxes. So in other words, if you donate 1,000 shekel to an organization that's recognized,
Recognized meaning
recognized by the tax at the
40,
bottom of Section 46.
46. They have to give you a receipt that says 46
right.
on it. Okay.
If you give them 1,000 shekel, that means 350 shekels, 35% will come off the taxes that you owe. Now, it's one way that the government is allowing the population to choose where the budget should go. We can say we want these kind of institutions to benefit from us, and the government says, okay, we'll take less taxes from you because you donated to that cause. The cause can be a religious institution, it can be a welfare institution, it can be a fortune of things. But knowing that if you do donate, make sure that it's to an organization with Section 46, and as well, make sure that you keep the receipt and you give it to your accountant at the year end.
And and that could be part of your budget. In fact, if you know 35%, comes back, so that could be part of your budget.
Sure.
But I also think that, again, goes back what I was saying earlier, is that people feel this obligation. You know, they're on the radio and they're like raising money, and you really got to put your family's well-being first. Okay, your kids have to eat.
Charity belongs at home.
Starts at home.
Starts at home.
Yeah. So and don't, because a lot of people just feel not just the wanting to, but sometimes it's actually pressure. You're in this place and they're raising money, and if you don't pick up your hand and say 1,000 or whatever it is,
First of all, I'm very much against giving them monthly payments. They go on and on. You say, I'll just give them 18 shekel or 25 shekel a month, a horat keva that lasts forever. Rather give them 180 shekel one time. You know where the money's gone. You've got control of it. If you've got the money now and it's part of your budget, you can pay it.
Because you're saying a horat keva is based on expectancies in the future. Okay, you say right now it's not going to hurt me so much. I'll give 18 shekel a month for the next 36 months. Okay, and you're thinking everything is fine, but you don't know what's going to happen in the future. And you're saying the money, what you have now is what you know. What you don't know, don't give. So don't fall into this harat keva business. Okay, because yes, it may feel less right now, but you don't know what's going to be in the future.
And they're very good when they phone you. They're very good at their jobs. I give them credit to. There was once somebody phoned me and I gave a donation, and he said, could you give me another 50? And I said no, and he bargained me down, and eventually he was arguing for another shekel. And I was amazing that they wanted to make sure that every shekel counts for
Find out who the guy is. I want him as an agent here.
I'm very much in favor of giving donations and helping people, but do it when it's good for you. One other thing, I sometimes get these people that bring me a pile of donations at year end, and I think, wow, these people have given a lot, and then I see each one is for a check of 20 shekel. I said to one of them, I said, maybe you should give to one of the missionaries or something like that. And he looked at me very askance and said, well, what are you talking about? I said, well, if you give 20 shekel, it may cost the organization you're giving to more than 20 shekel to process that check that you give them. By the time the secretary writes out the receipt, puts it in an envelope, sends it to you with postage. Well, in those days there was postage.
Right.
And her time of dealing with it and whatever, it may cost them more than 20 shekel just to process the donations. I think it's better to give a reasonable sized donation to one place than to spread it out of a shekel and a half to everybody when it just in today's world with so much paperwork and so much bureaucracy, Each of the things need to be recorded, and that costs money and it takes time.
That's interesting.
Rather to give a sizable amount than to spread it against a number of people.
And look, according to the mitzvah, the commandment, according to as far as I understand, there's halacha says you're supposed to give better to give to more charities. But I think that's in a situation where it doesn't cost anything. What you're saying is 20 shekel ends up costing the organization even more money. So you're not really doing anything.
Exactly.
So unless you're able to do it in a way that you're actually giving them money, but if not, then better just give a bigger donation to one organization. There's going to be that paperwork cost, but the rest of it will go to something.
I think the Rambam was talking when he said you should give to a number of people because the act of giving is important. That's when you're walking down the street and there's people there looking for money, and every shekel you give
no
them,
paperwork, just cash in someone's
that's
pocket. Right. That's what I'm saying.
We have to use a little bit of common sense and realize that in today's world, when we pay with expenses, with paperwork, with bureaucracy, be a little bit clever and don't hide behind the Rambam's thing of giving to lots of people a little bit, because it just doesn't make sense.
That's amazing. Okay. First, before we conclude this podcast, is there any tip, tip that you could give agents specifically in running their finances, or something that you want to add to what you've said till now?
Sure. I think to be an agent is wonderful. You're making a shidduch. Sometimes these shidduchim, these matches will last, and the same way as a husband and wife last hopefully for many, many years, so will a person and his property live together, and they can save, and it's beneficial for good. So you're doing a good job. But don't fall into the trap that when you make a good deal, that you feel on top of the world and you spend all your money. Save, plan for the future, be realistic, be fair to yourself, and don't spend the money that you don't have yet, because you may end up in a hole that you find is hard to get out of.
Okay, with those words, first, I just want to thank you for coming by and giving us. I know you're a very busy person because you have a big company with a lot of dealing with a lot of clients, and it's well appreciated. And I hope people that are watching this have learned something, and then hopefully will put these into action. And it'll save you a lot of aggravation. You'll be able to sleep at night. That's the idea. Okay, we want to help people, and any suggestions anyone has out there, you could definitely, or if you have any questions, you can call Tuvia Victor. I don't know if you want to give out your cell number, but if not, you can find him.
You can find me.
How did they get to you?
The best way is to send me an email on tuviav, Tuviav, at netmedia.net.il, and I'll be happy to help anybody that needs help. I hope that it's been a pleasure coming here, and I hope that somebody somewhere will benefit from our podcast today.
Okay, so thank you very much, guys, for being with us. I hope this has helped you in any which way, and of course, you can always subscribe to our YouTube channel. There are many other valuable podcasts that can hopefully help you with other parts, other information. And for now, Toda Rabba, Shalom from Yerushalayim. We'll see you next time. Take care.